Hello, young fellows. Today we bring another terrifying story. The people in charge of citizen security sometimes have to face very dangerous situations to maintain order, but sometimes they also have to deal with situations that are beyond reality. Come with me to listen to this horror story. I have been a police officer for years. During my service, I have seen many things worth telling. However, no story compares to the story I am about to share with you. These types of stories, of which the newscasts are also often witnesses, do not usually appear on television because they are so incredible that even with evidence they are usually taken as false. However, those of us who have been there, seeing them firsthand, we know it's real. It all started one December night. We were patrolling on a quiet night. We were passing through a very popular and busy area. We received a call about a suspicious-looking van. When we arrived, we met a man of about 60 years old, who, upon seeing us, became very nervous. Although very cooperative, he did not refuse to show us the truck, which had a box. Apparently it worked to transport meat, since there were blood and flesh residue all over the box. At first hand, we did not find anything, however. The man looked increasingly nervous. When I noticed this attitude, I began to pressure him with questions to see if I could break him. There was no need to pressure the man so much. After a couple of questions, he took us back to check the box. The floor of the box was false. He lifted it and revealed a couple of dog corpses. I almost vomited when I saw the sinister discovery. The man began to get defensive. He said that he was a veterinarian and that he was not committing any crime, that he was only going to get rid of the dogs.
I'm not doing anything wrong.
But we took him to the police station so that he could verify that everything he said was true. They let the man free. I asked the man how he would get rid of the bodies, to which he confessed that he would donate them to some people who were dedicated to taxidermy. Before leaving, he wrote me an address on a piece of paper, explaining that I could find out more there. Curiosity got the better of me, and being off duty, I went to that address. It was very close to the place where we detained the man. At the address there was a huge house. The street was very busy. After a while of being parked, I began to notice that from time to time luxury vehicles arrived and parked outside. Most of the people who entered the house had certain very obvious deformities. At first I didn't dare to inquire about the address, but after feeling uncomfortable inside the car, I got out and went to a local store, where after buying a Coke and a pack of cigarettes, I waited for the people who were there to leave. I immediately approached the manager to ask him some questions, but he was not very cooperative. In fact, in the end he became rude and told me why I didn't ask them personally. Although his tone was rude, he was absolutely right. I would lose nothing if I came directly to the house. The worst that could happen was that they would not give me any information. I passed through the garden, then walked along a stone path, and arrived at the enormous entrance arch. The construction was very ornate. Its construction seemed very old. I pressed a button on an intercom. After a few minutes, a young woman opened the door for me. She asked me if I had an appointment. I acted like I knew, so I answered no, that's what I was coming for. She asked me why I hadn't made the appointment by phone. I told her that I had lost the number. He wrote it down in a filthy notebook. I tried to see inside the house, but everything was covered with dark curtains, and a somewhat repulsive smell forced me to sneeze. This made my eyes start to water. I left. I had the appointment in 15 days. Fortunately or unfortunately, I didn't have to wait that long. We were on duty when we were called for an emergency because there was a shooting in a house. It could be fate or it could be coincidence. It was the same address that I visited previously. I told my partner that that was the address the man we stopped with the truck with the dog corpses gave me. When we arrived, there were many people outside the house. An ambulance was already there, with paramedics treating a couple of injured people. I approached to see the people that the paramedics were treating. They had such a strange appearance that I would not be able to describe it. Something about their faces did not look normal. It was as if they had certain deformities that managed to make their faces look as if they were evil people. In fact, that's what they transmitted to me. We entered the house because a woman who claimed to be one of the owners informed us that a client went crazy and took out a gun, injuring the people who were outside. According to witnesses, the subject locked himself in the basement of the house. Fortunately, there was no one downstairs. We began to search the house. Everything looked very luxurious inside. I still didn't know what service that place offered, although I already had an idea, because some walls were decorated with strange symbols used in witchcraft, in addition to some pictures with paintings representing angels, images that were too realistic for my taste. It was impossible not to feel chills when looking at them. It almost gave me the impression that the faces painted there were following me with their gaze. There was a certain bad vibe throughout the house, and every hallway we went through, I maintained a certain sensation, as if it were pulling me towards the floor. We arrived at a room where they told us that the staircase leading to the basement was located. In that place, there were all kinds of strange figures, white tablecloths, symbols and herbs. It was obvious that that place was used for esoteric practices. The entrance to the basement was just a wooden door that led to some spiral stairs. As soon as we arrived, the man downstairs began to threaten that if we didn't leave, he would shoot us. Then he told us that we shouldn't protect a witch, that his problem was only with her. We dissuaded the man from dropping the weapon, making him see that he was in a dangerous situation. For this, another police unit was already next to us. We opened the door and arrested him. When they took the man, he shouted at us that we would regret it, that the one we should arrest was the witch who was accompanying us. Once everything was quiet, we heard some moans downstairs in the basement. We asked the woman if everything was okay down there. This made the woman nervous. This seemed suspicious to us, so we decided to go down, to investigate. A foul smell almost forced us to vomit. However, we continued down the stairs. Almost reaching the last step, I stepped on something that made me fall. My partner picked me up. As everything was very dark, we turned on our flashlights, and before our eyes, a scene that was both infernal and disgusting appeared. The floor was full of symbols made with pieces of meat and dog skulls. I couldn't take it anymore and vomited. My partner suddenly told me to listen, that the sounds were coming from further ahead. I kept walking, trying to control my nausea. We arrived at a huge table where there was a kind of glass dome which protected the object from which the cries came. If it weren't for the fact that my partner and another police officer who was there saw it, even I would have my doubts about what I saw. There was a little man pierced by several needles in his body. He was no more than 20 inches tall. He was wearing only a long hat, with 2 peaks on the tip. It was something frightening to see the expressions on his face. Honestly, I couldn't stand being in there. I couldn't stand the stench, the look of the little man, nor his screams of agony. I ran out of the house. My companions and I gave our statement of the facts, however. We omitted the part about the little man, because, as I have told you, it sounds so incredible that no one would take us seriously. I no longer knew anything about the case since I was assigned to another area. I found out from my other colleagues that when I ran out, the being inside the glass vanished before their eyes, and that after that experience, they used to have horrible nightmares. I have honestly never dreamed of that event, although every time I remember it, I feel afraid. Sometimes I wonder what that woman was doing with the dog corpses. I don't know. I think there are things that are better to continue ignoring.